Hope y'all are doing well. Talk a little bit about the Cahaba Project, kind of picking up a little bit where Dennis left off with the furnace that was here. This is a photo from 1937, like an Army airplane flying over. Like this is Brentwood Avenue, so like this is Rock Park back here, if you're familiar. There's some leftover remnants of furnace. I forget.
That's the old water tower.
Water tower. So this area over here is where we're at now, and Cahaba Elementary right in that area. So by 1933, this blast furnace had been silent for more than a decade. The giant stack still stood over the landscape, but the industry that had once fueled the community was gone. This furnace village had largely fallen into decline, and like much of America, the area was struggling through the Great Depression. On Christmas Eve, 1933, everything for this area changed. The federal government selected this former furnace property as the site of an experimental community that was known as Slag Heap Village. It's pretty, right? It's beautifully titled. It was one of 8 New Deal homestead communities in the state of Alabama, created to help working families find stability during one of the nation's most difficult economic periods. The idea here was simple but ambitious. Instead of crowded industrial housing and economic uncertainty, town planners envisioned a community with affordable homes, green space, a school, recreation, and opportunities for families to build better lives. Construction began in 1936. As relief workers laid out streets and foundations, the old industrial landscape began disappearing. The abandoned furnace was dismantled for scrap. Old company housing was removed. Roads and new neighborhoods took shape where iron workers had once lived and worked. One newspaper described the transformation as turning a, quote, dead and deserted iron workers village into a place filled with, quote, new and abundant life. By the spring of 1938, families were moving into 287 newly constructed homes. This community was carefully planned. Houses were designed to be attractive and affordable. You had to rent them at the time, but affordable. Parks and recreation facilities were included from the beginning. The school, the one we still know today out here, became a central gathering place. And the goal here wasn't simply to provide housing, it was to create community. In many ways, almost every way, that worked. Residents developed a strong sense of identity and pride. Community organizations flourished. Children grew up in neighborhoods designed around walkability, recreation, and shared public spaces. There's some construction happening there after some of the dismantling. Because the Cahaba Project was federally owned, residents rented their homes rather than owning them. The federal government touched many aspects of daily life. Supporters viewed the project as a bold experiment in community planning. Critics from afar saw it as government involvement that extended too far. The more things change. Regardless, the community flourished. As the nation emerged from the Great Depression and entered World War II, the Cahaba Project continued to grow. Families contributed to the war effort while maintaining the close-knit character that had developed during the 1930s. I've talked to people around here that were kids in the 1944, 1945 who have said, I didn't even really know that there was a war going on living right here. And then came another turning point. Let's see what's next here. There's where they're building the wastewater treatment plant. This is on the other side of the railroad tracks here. So this is behind, kind of in the area near the city hall that's undergoing renovations right now, that treatment plant that's across the railroad tracks. This is a photo taken by Arthur Rothstein in 1937. He was on, I'm pretty sure he was on his way, he was just passing through here on his way to Gee's Bend to take photos there, and stopped here. So this would be kind of entryway to the project all the way across there. So In 1947, the federal government moved to sell the homes to the people living in them, and for residents, this was both exciting and contentious. Many believed that asking prices were too high. There were meetings, there were appeals, residents organized and pushed back against federal appraisals, but despite the disagreements, sales moved forward. And by the end of 1947, many families who had spent years as renters were becoming homeowners. The experiment that had begun during the depths of the Great Depression was entering a new phase. There's a home there. I love this photo. This is, I believe it's 503 Rock Ridge. Benny Spiegel lives in this house. She's one of my dear friends. I love this photo because this house is one of the most preserved in all of the Cahaba Project. You go walk up to it now, you're going to see that exact door. It's painted, but it's that exact door. You're going to see this exact same layout. But I included this on a book that I wrote that came out last year, The Model City, because I love it so much. I love, the little tricycle bike that's here, rocking chair on the porch, the planters, and more than anything, I mean, we got the pup right there in the photo. When I had the book design, they centered the house in the photo, which cut out old Lassie here, and I had to go back to the design team and say, look, I know I had the photo off center, but it was for a reason. I want that dog in that picture. This just shows to me what daily life must have been like back then. So federal government, or the federal project, was gradually giving way to a self-sustaining community and in turn a new town. The significance of the old furnace isn't simply that it once produced iron. It's that when its industrial era ended, the land became the foundation for something entirely different. In the span of little more than a decade, Trussville's abandoned furnace property was transformed into one of America's most notable New Deal communities. I'm going to say that again. It was transformed into one of America's most notable New Deal communities, a place that helped shape the modern city we know today. By 1947, the story was no longer about a furnace. It was about families, a neighborhood, home ownership, and the future of Trussville. Y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. With that first picture showing the model city when it started to be built, keep going back a little more. So with that overlay, you'll notice the trees in the background where we're probably just right before what we're seeing right now, which is the east side of the neighborhood, northeast side. The south side, was it all clear cut, or was did the government clear cut that, or was that a populated land at the time?
I don't know.
It was field that I was.
Yeah, because there was some, like a lot of this was Lancasters and stuff farm, because it's probably really hard to tell on here because it was dark as well, but there's still, here it is. It's going to be so hard to see unless you get close, but right here is still a really big barn from the farm. It's really hard to see in this, but that's an old barn that was still there that was still needing to be raised before they could build houses. So we're like halfway through construction here.
The reason why I asked that question, what's interesting about this photo is this photo shows what we did in the 40s when we decided we were the neighborhoods, right?
Right.
We didn't go and mow every tree over, tree down. We started, if you look at the very top right-hand corner, you'll see where they're building the houses amongst the trees.
Right.
They're not clearing the trees up completely out. They're building them amongst these. So I'd like to know, really, Gary, whether or not, was that the pasture and they just basically put it off of the pasture? Was it hard ribbons, slag heat that they had there from the furnace?
Right. Well, and I'm not sure how to answer that question directly, but what I do know is, originally the plan was, let's say you're building all these houses here, and the plan was to go up Cherokee. There are plans for that where they're going to go all the way up Cherokee and, all these streets, Seminole and all these streets that cut through. Initially, what they were going to do was think of it like houses in like a big oval and surrounding a middle that would have been another green space. And as they went up there, that terrain was so tough and rocky and that they abandoned it and they moved this way toward Brentwood and brought it this way instead. So I don't know if this was just kind of open like this exactly, or if they did clear cut.
We continue to do very well.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Gary, on your next to last slide, did the original houses have a front porch?
Which slide? This one right here?
Did the originals have a front porch?
Yeah, there were different, there were different styles of them and that kind of thing, but most of them had some sort of service porch. A lot of people closed them in.
Mostly do close, yeah.
Yeah, some people have reopened them, but a lot of them, they've closed it in for another room or sunroom or, mud room, that kind of thing.
It looks like nearly every house in the area up here has been added onto up and back.
Yeah.
Front.
Yeah, and then there was,
That was original.
yeah, and there were, well, and the thing is like, this has been my spiel for years and I'm going to do it again. But even these smaller ones, the idea was always to build onto the back. Like when you rented one of these houses, they were renting it to you based on your income and how big your family was. So if you had no kids or one kid and you qualified for, let's just say a house like this, that Benny's house is pretty small because it was one of the smaller ones originally, and she has kept it just preserved beautifully. But if they knew you were going to have more kids. And so the plan, and we can show you these plans, the plan all along for these smaller ones was to add on to the back of these homes. They're on lots that are a half acre to 3/4 of an acre. The plan was always to add on to the back of it. Somewhere along the way, never mind. I'm not going to say the rest of that, but that was always the plan, and a lot of people have done a really good job of that. We've seen it in numerous places around here where people, you don't know it from the street-facing exterior, right? That the house just keeps going back.